Yeah.
This conference will now be recorded.
I'll call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Mayor Calvin.
Here.
Councilmember Fagerly.
Here.
Maskey.
Here.
Schwantes.
Here.
Davis. Alvarado.
Here.
Osmus.
Here.
Plowman.
Here.
Nelson.
Here.
8 present, 1 absent.
And Councilmember Davis does have an excused absence. We'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilmember Fagerly, can you help with that, please?
I can. Let's see. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, are there any proposed additions or deletions to the agenda? And somebody's going to have to call off the people because I can't see anybody, obviously.
Fagerly, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Osmus.
Motion by Fagerly, seconded by Osmus to approve the agenda without any changes to the agenda. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Fagerly.
Aye.
Maskey.
Aye.
Schwantes.
Aye.
Alvarado.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That motion carries. Next, we'll have the consent items. City Clerk Thompson.
On tonight's consent agenda, we have for council's approval the City Council minutes of August 17th, Willmar Municipal Utilities Board minutes of August 24th, Planning Commission minutes of August 19th, an application for exempt permit from West Central Ducks Unlimited, application for exempt permit for Glacial Ridge Curling, and an application for exempt permit from Knights of Columbus, application for Planning Commission for Stephanie Carlson, accounts payable report for August 13th through September 2nd. And for council's acceptance, the building report for the month of August, Human Rights Commission minutes of February 25th, the Willmar Lakes Area Convention and Visitors Bureau Board minutes of July 21st.
Fagerly, I'll make a motion for the consent agenda.
Schwantes, second. Motion by Fagerly, seconded by Schwantes to approve the consent items. All in favor signify by saying aye. I'm sorry. Roll call.
Councilmember Maskey.
Aye.
Schwantes.
Aye.
Alvarado.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That motion carries. I have no idea what's next. My computer's not working.
It's Finance Committee report.
Next, we have Finance Committee report. Councilmember Nelson.
Thank you, Mayor Calvin. The Finance Committee met on Thursday, August 20th at 5 p.m. We called the meeting to order and roll call. Those in attendance were Council members Nelson, Fagerly, and Osmus. And we have several action items. We need to set a special assessment hearing for unpaid weed grass mowing And pursuant to the Willmar code, we are ready to do that. There are 5 parcels where non-compliance occurred, and it is being requested that we set a public hearing for September 21st at 7:01 to consider objections to the proposed assessment for the mowing costs on the 5 properties that are listed in the minutes. There was a motion and a second to set a public hearing for September 21st, and I will enter that motion now.
Second, Fagerly.
Motion made by Nelson, seconded by Fagerly to set a public hearing on the item as mentioned. Discussion. Roll call.
I might just mention, we do have some background noise, so if you are not speaking to turn your mic off, that would help greatly. So on with the roll call. Councilmember Schwantes,
Aye.
Alvarado,
Aye.
Asmus,
Aye.
Plowman,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Fagerly.
Maskey,
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That motion carries. Councilmember Nelson.
Thank you. Our next special assessment hearing was for unpaid nuisances. That references Municipal Code, Chapter 9, Article 1. We have 1 property that this applies to, and it was requested that a public hearing be set for September 21st, 2020 at 7:02 to consider the objections for the proposed assessment for demolition and removal costs. And the motion was made and seconded, and I will enter that motion now to set that public hearing for 7:02 on September 21st.
Asmus, second.
Motion made by Nelson, seconded by Osmus to set a public hearing. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Alvarado,
Aye.
Asmus,
Aye.
Plowman,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Fagerly,
Aye.
Maskey,
Aye.
Schwantes.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That motion passes. I think I finally got back in. So Councilmember Nelson.
Thank you, Mayor Calvin. Our third action item was to set a special hearing for snow and ice removal charges. That follows the code of Chapter 13, Article 3. We have 3 properties that are we are being requested to set assessments against. And the staff is recommending that we set a public hearing on September 21st at 7:03. There was a motion and a second to do that, and I will enter that motion now.
Asmus, I will second that.
Motion made and seconded to set the public hearing. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Asmus,
Aye.
Plowman,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Fagerly,
Aye.
Maskey,
Aye.
Schwantes,
Aye.
Alvarado.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That motion passes. Councilmember Nelson.
Thank you, Mayor Calvin. The next item was a discussion item regarding the sales tax analysis funding level review, and that these documents are attached to the minutes. Staff explained to the committee that the clarification received from the city attorney regarding the 10% deviation allowed by statute. That document, I'm not going to read that document. Subsequently, after the review of the legal part, up to 10% can be deducted from one or more projects approved under the statute for the Willmar local sales tax and added to one or more of the other projects approved under the statute for Willmar local option sales tax. Since an ordinance is required to institute any deviation, the process includes issuing a publication, setting a public hearing, and introducing an ordinance. That is for information only. It was also noted that the 10% contingency fees and the 15% architectural fees were included in the project costs. However, since there is a construction manager in place, the contingency fees may be a cost projection that could be reduced. Finance Director Okens provided the committee with an update of the anticipated collections for the first 15 months, which is projected to be at 2.5 million, which is based on an average of 168,000 per month. With this 2.5 million, we would be able to cover all soft costs except the senior center community or city hall project. We would also be able to cover 274,000 in construction engineering costs, which would be primarily for the Swanson Field project, construction manager costs for the rec fields and event center on a prorated basis, and the stormwater project for about $500 for this year, 500,000 for this year. The remaining balance of 500,000 could then be applied to hard costs, which would probably be most beneficial to be used for the existing road work contract under the Robbins Island project. Finance options include bonds that could be issued either before the end of the year or the next year as needed. Additionally, the city could obtain construction loans for any of these projects at any time based on conversations with the local lending institutions. Subsequently, permanent bonding could be issued at a later date, thereby paying off the construction loan. Staff also provided and discussed several scenarios with which projected various possibilities using cash versus bonding over the life of the local option sales tax program. Our next item was state finance information update. Finance Director Okens reported that there was no formal information that had been received from the state to date. However, indications are to approach local government aid projections and property tax projections cautiously since circumstances remain unknown. Staff has been working on preparing different scenarios for the 2021 budget projections. And the next financial forecast at the state of Minnesota is not scheduled until November. The last item for information was just a departmental information update, and Finance Director Okens shared with the committee the information going on in his department. The audit and financial statements are being finalized, and there's a second extension that will be due September 15th for our audit. Staff has completed the first draft of the 2021 budget and will be meeting with the mayor in the near future, which we already have received that since the meeting. It is noted that the council needs to certify its tax levy at the September 21st meeting, as the certification is required to be submitted to the county auditor by September 30th. Staff has also been tracking new programs, including the local option sales tax and CARES funding. The position approved in 2020 budget is being worked on with the administrator and is scheduled to be reviewed with the Labor Relations Committee, and I believe that's on our agenda next. And Mr. Okens noted that he was anxiously awaiting for his new position to assist with additional workload. It was also noted that the investment activity has increased substantially this year, and the new timekeeping software with Coronis is continuing to be worked on as well. We reviewed future agenda items, and there was no other business to come before the committee, and there was a motion to adjourn, and I would enter the minutes. I would make a motion to enter the minutes now.
Osmus, I'll second.
Motion by Nelson, seconded by Osmus to file the minutes of the Finance Committee. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Plowman,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Fagerly,
Aye.
Maskey,
Aye.
Fontes,
Aye.
Alvarado,
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That motion passes. Next, we have Labor. Councilmember Maskey.
Labor met on August 24th. All the assigned council members were in attendance. Also joining us were HR Director Beckman, City Planner Svedberg, and Mayor Calvin. We did talk about the Main Street Coordinator position. That is a new position. If you look at your packet, we have, to be a part of the program, we are supposed to have a full-time person in place. We were given an exemption as we moved into that position. And now we're moving, we'd like to present, the staff presented a position that would start being part-time. You can see it as a no benefit occurring position at this point, working our way up to a full-time position for that Main Street Coordinator. In your packet is the job description. We talked at length about what the position would entail. I think it's outlined fairly well in the position. And so the Labor Committee approved moving that here tonight. So I would enter the motion to approve the Main Street Coordinator and City Planner job descriptions pending budgetary approval. There was some discussion about what comes first, the budget for it or the position, and we really haven't followed a set protocol for that. Sometimes it goes to finance first and then here and vice versa. But since we were dealing with it directly and we knew the budget process was happening, we thought we'd bring it to council this evening. So I would enter that motion.
Second.
Motion by Maskey, seconded by Schwantes. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Nelson,
Aye.
Fagerly,
Aye.
Maskey,
Aye.
Fontes,
Aye.
Alvarado,
Aye.
Osmus,
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That motion passes. Councilmember Maskey.
The next item was just for information, but it was the general unit MOU. The general unit was talking about having a possibility of flexible work schedules if agreed by the supervisor and employee without incurring overtime. This would allow an employee, instead of doing 8 hours over 5 days, perhaps doing 4 at 10 hours. The committee was not opposed to the idea at all. There was some discussion about whether or not this would be a benefit that should be part of the negotiation process, and truly what kind of financial implications would there be with this. So there would be more information coming. The lack of it coming here this evening by no way is an indicator that the committee was opposed to it. There was just some other information that was out there that we'd like to hear about. The next item was an Fsa Monthly Administration Fee, and that is for our health saving accounts. They're non-interest bearing accounts, and they currently have no monthly fee. We are what we call a free saver account. That was discontinued, but we were allowed to continue to do that. So there are no fees for those accounts. They are going to be phased out, but there is an unknown date of when that is going to happen. And so there's an opportunity to move into what they call their SWWC pricing deal. It did not look as if that was a really big savings for the city to do that. So we are going to maintain our position of having the free piece until we're forced to make that move. So the committee talked about it, and we will be a wait and see, and we'll probably be back with that when they do decide to actually let our grandfather expire. The last item that came for us was the Assistant Finance Director position, as you have just heard. That position was approved. The job descriptions had not yet come through. You will find those position descriptions attached for the Assistant Finance Director and the Accounting Coordinator job descriptions. And the committee thought it was time to get those through. And so I will present or make the motion to approve the Assistant Finance Director and Accounting Coordinator job descriptions.
Second.
Motion by Maskey, seconded by Schwantes to approve the job descriptions. Discussion. Councilmember Osmus.
Yes, I see on the accounting coordinator position that the pay range is an 8. And I know you discussed, and there was some of the job responsibilities that were taken away have been X'd out. Was there any discussion about lowering the pay range to a 7 because of the fewer supervisory responsibilities?
Do we have HR Director Beckman on the line this evening? No. I don't know how versed the city administrator is. I don't want to put him on the spot, but it was scored. And I think my understanding was HR Beckman, when she scored it, it was in this position. I don't think, and it was about a timing of when it was scored initially. But she seemed to think that the elimination of the supervisory piece did not change the overall scoring of that position, was my recollection. Others on the committee, please talk to it, or if our city administrator has a comment on that one.
Yeah, members of the city council, that is my understanding, that the discussions I've had with Ms. Beckman resulted in that it would stay the same after being reviewed and rescored.
Additional discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Fagerly,
Aye.
Maskey,
Aye.
Schwantes,
Aye.
Alvarado,
Aye.
Osmus,
Aye.
Plowman,
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That motion passes. Councilmember Maskey.
There was no other items to come before labor, and with that, I would move to approve the minutes, or move to file the minutes.
Second.
It's been made by Maskey, seconded by Schwantes to follow the minutes of the labor. All discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Maskey,
Aye.
Schwantes,
Aye.
Alvarado,
Aye.
Osmus,
Aye.
Plowman,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That motion passes. Next, we have a liquor issue. City Clerk Thompson.
Mayor, members of the council, we recently received a request from Foxhole Brew House to hold an event for their liquor. It's an anniversary. Here we go. Sorry, I misplaced my paper. For their anniversary, or for Oktoberfest, I'm sorry, on October 3rd. They are requesting permission to apply for a 1 to 4 day temporary on-sale liquor license for this event, and it's staff's recommendation to approve.
Fagerly, a motion to approve the 1 to 4 day liquor license.
Maskey, second.
Motion by Fagerly, seconded by Maskey to approve the 1 to 4 day permit. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Schwantes,
Aye.
Alvarado,
Aye.
Osmus,
Aye.
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Aye.
Maskey.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That motion passes as well. I'm sure you're all getting the same message I am, that the organizer is experiencing technical difficulties. So the meeting will be ending in 60 minutes or less. Next, we have item number 11. I don't know who's going to take it.
Well, normally Rob would do this, but I'll take the items as they come up here. Basically, I think what we are looking for tonight is an extension of what was presented at Finance Committee. and that was that the sales tax revenue coming in is adequate to service a estimated amount of debt. And as you remember, with our discussion with our financial analysts, that worst case scenario, I mean, if the world, stopped rotating, sort of worst case, that we'd be probably down to $10 million that we could fund. But back then we were saying we could probably do $20 million of the 30. And that should, ring a bell that we said, 2/3 of every project kind of a thing. But we've slowly gone into doing the projects. The first one being Robbins Island, projected at $3 million, but constructed at $2 million, and Swanson Fields, $2 million budget, estimated to cost $2 million. And so there is space in the current revenue stream to do additional projects. So that's the big picture. All right. The items that you have before you, there are 4 items, and one is to adopt a resolution to approve the use of permanent bond financing in the amount of $5 million, $3 million for Robbins and $2 million for Swanson, to be done in 2020. If you remember in the finance minutes, it said we could do bonding in 2020 or possibly in 2021 to accomplish our needs. Now, so that's the first item. The second item would basically just say that we're going to, temporarily use cash on hand to cover all soft costs if we decide to go ahead with recreation and field project and the event center project. And the third item is adopting a resolution to authorize re-engaging of the Widseth Architects and Marcus as construction manager to complete the design, preparation of plans and specs for the recreation fields at $6 million. And then also the fourth motion does the same thing, except it's LSE Architects and Marcus for the event recreation center, which is $10 million. And that would likely be in phases, as we had talked about. Like with Swanson Field, we have the project, the base project, and then we have alternates that if we can include them, we will, based on costs coming in. We would also recommend, staff would recommend that we do the same thing with the event recreation center. Identify the different phases, create a base project, but add alternates that you could not do or do as funding is available. So if you add up all of those projects, you basically end up with 16, 18, $21 million. And that's pretty close to the 2/3, and does not necessarily take into account inflation over the next 10 years, at 3%, which would be a 30% increase in the dollar figure. And one other item that might be of interest is that even though we were recommending going out for $5 million, which 3 of it was for Robbins Island, we know we only authorized construction of $2 million, so there's $1 million sitting there. I don't see that as a major issue. We'll just use that to pay for construction costs and any needed soft costs as required as we move forward. So I at once had proposed that we just bond for the $2 million instead of the 3, but I would go with the $5 million, to be quite honest, because I do know that Robbins Island has an alternative project that they'd like to bring back for consideration by the city council for their park shelters. So that's another day, but as we proceed through the projects, some things, we may look at 2 or 3 times, and the shelters are one of those that I think the committee feels strongly about and has a different plan than what was originally proposed. So with that, I guess I would be open to any questions that I could hopefully answer for you tonight. But I would go one step farther and say, even though that we've been averaging about $168,000 a month and adds up, you know, to a decent amount of projects to do, that this last month, the projections are coming in, you know, slightly over 200,000. So it's very positive step that although we've been fairly stable, that the current projection that we're looking at is gives us more breathing room so that we can do more projects if it continues. So with that in mind, I guess I'd be open to any questions you might have, and then we can look at any of those resolutions that you wish to pursue.
Councilmember Osmus.
Do we just want to do each one by itself and then move on to the next?
As far as the resolution, you mean, or the project?
No, the resolution, making the motion, having
Yeah.
the discussion on it, and then moving on to the next one.
Yeah, I would recommend doing that. They're
Okay.
all separate individual steps, and you can decide to do one and not to do others. So that's why they're broken out into 4. At one time, it was like, here's the motion. It's a humongous paragraph, and now we want to break it out so you, as a council, can decide which one you want to do. So,
Okay,
you want
I'll
to
make,
start with the first
I'll
one?
make the motion to approve the use of permanent bond financing in the amount of $5 million, $3 million for Robbins Island and $2 million for Swanson Fields out of the local option sales tax projects approved in 2020.
I'll second that, Alvarado.
Motion by Osmus, seconded by Alvarado, to use the bond financing for $5 million, $3 million for Robbins Island, $2 million for Swanson Field. Councilmember Nelson.
Thank you, Mayor Calvin. If I remember correctly from the bond conversation, we will have to designate what we're doing with the 5 million. Am I correct? Not opposed to it, but is this kind of an up to if we don't have projects to do the 5 million? You mentioned soft costs, but I believe we have to spell out in the bonding what they're actually going to be used for. So that's just a question.
I would propose that we would do whatever is legally required in order to sell the bonds. But true. We are limited by the legislation of what we can spend the money on. So that's number one. But there's nothing saying, to be quite honest, that the city couldn't bond for all the projects in one day. You know, the problem comes in is we have to spend it within 18 months. And that's where we're saying we need to cut up our financing into bite-sized pieces, because we can't construct them all in 18 months. This could be a 3-year duration. And so with that, that's why we're doing smaller bond projects. But I think we're just limited to the legislation. We can only do 3 million for Robbins. We can only do 2 million for Swanson, plus 10% if you didn't spend it somewhere else. Okay, so that's we'll do what's required.
Councilmember Plowman, followed by Maskey.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I don't have a question at this time.
Oh, I thought I seen you raise your hand. I'm sorry. Councilmember Maskey.
I will just say that this may complicate things at the steering committee level for these projects, because a lot of the projects, when they've come through basically with an idea of and then we say, well, we're not going to talk about the finances, because the finances are going to come from the city council, and the city council will determine how they're going to fund those. By putting an extra $1 million for Robbins Island that is not earmarked for an idea that is currently out there on the table, will set a precedent perhaps for some of the other ones that I find a little concerning, because now they'll say, you just brought back $1,000 of dollars and now you want to figure out what project they're going to pay for. that's different than they have been. So I would hate to have to tell some of the other ones that we're not funding their project and that we'll figure out the funding when it comes to the council, where in this particular instance, we're saying, well, here's about $1 million unallocated, and now you figure out how to spend it, because it is not how we have followed it with the other ones. It's not that it's a bad idea either. It's just that you will change it, and some of these other projects will say we're not treated the same way. And that is a concern for me.
Councilmember Alvarado.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Muskie, I think that money is earmarked for some shelter work. We've talked about remodeling. I'm drawing a blank right now. My mind is going here, but help me out. The main one there next to the new one, remodeling that shelter. Moving a couple of shelters around. I don't think the committee has taken formal action on it. I think it's going to happen. I don't think that that money has been formally spoken for, but that's kind of the direction that I think it's going for, is towards shelters. So I don't think we're setting a precedence. I think we've talked about it before, and I think we're aware of what we want to do with that money as a committee, but we wanted to make sure we had some money to do it first. Thank you.
Additional discussion. Councilmember Miske.
And again, not that it is necessarily a bad idea, but when another committee comes forward and says, we would like to do this with the event center, there was a great to do about whether or not we want to do outdoor ice or do a locker room and these types of things, which by the way was $1 million project. Here we're saying back to the Robbins Island committee and to the steering committee, here is $1 million, spend it. I'm sure there's priorities. We're going to follow the ones that were there, but we've never offered the dollars beforehand. It's always been this gauntlet of running through this to get the funding on our end as a council. It's just different that the council is saying, here's the dollars to fund the ideas that haven't necessarily been fully vetted through, and now that there's a redo. I'm just saying it feels like we might be changing the rules in the middle of the game, because other ones we've been very firm about the dollars and we haven't offered some additional unallocated dollars before.
City Administrator Gramitz.
Yeah, I think maybe this will muddy the waters, but if in our third resolution that we want to do the rec fields at $6 million, if you decide not to do the Robbins Island shelters at all, you only have to bond for $5 million of the rec fields because you already have the $1 million. The bonding money really is not designated $3 million to Robbins Island and $2 million to Swanson. It's $5 million of debt that we need to pay off based on the revenue, and we can use that money for any of the projects that we want to. We can use it for soft costs, we can use it for hard costs, doesn't really matter. And so I don't know that I would get hung up on saying that's Swanson Island money, because it's really not. It's bond money that we can use for any of the sales tax projects.
Councilmember Miske.
I don't think that money is it at all. I think it clarifies it, but I would say the first line that I have in my packet that I'm reading from does say 3 million Robbins Island, 2 million Swanson Field. So I would think that should say 2 million Robbins Island, 2 million Swanson Field, 1 million allocated. And I think that would it would stop a precedent that I would be afraid of.
I would agree.
So the motion was as it's written, which is 3 million, 2 million. Attorney Scott, is this a substantial change because it is 20% of the project? So I think that trips the trigger to the motion has to be rescinded and remade, correct? Scott?
Mr. Mayor, this is one where I think if the maker of the motion and the seconder both agree to change it to remove the specific 3 million, 2 million reference to the specific components, I would be fine with just having you treat it as a friendly amendment.
Is there an appetite for a friendly amendment as presented by the author of the motion, Councilmember Rasmus?
Okay, my concern is I thought we were trying to fix the issue about the Robbins Island being able to go ahead and get the bids and move forward with the shelters that we had put the brakes on because of having the architectural fees. So I want them to still be able to do, and that was what, 250,000 a piece. So that was $500,000 for each one of the shelters. That was their plan Bs. I don't understand why there can't be an understanding that they're going ahead with that. And then I understand that there's 500,000 then, but I know they also had plans about the Guri shelter, and I don't want to now say that they can't move forward with those projects. And I know it can be used for any project, but to me that seems to complicate it.
Administrator Grant.
Yeah, and it's my understanding that their proposal will be coming forward. It's just not ready right now. And you're not obligating yourself to spending that $1 million in any other projects. You're just saying, we want, while you're going through all the mechanicals of bonding, whether it's 4 million or 5 million, the administrative costs of actually doing it are the same. So this is just kind of saying, the money that we've spent so far on soft costs, we're going to pay ourselves back, and we'll have more soft costs that we can spend any way we want, when the proposals are brought forward at some time in the future. It gives you almost total flexibility on what you do in the future, and it doesn't nail you down to anything in particular. So your ability to decide about the shelters is perfectly still there. You know, we're not saying no, but they don't even have a proposal on our table yet. And when they do, if you decide to go that route, you can say yes or no, because you got money to do it, or you could say no, we're going to spend it on something else. So leaves your option open.
Okay, I understand that, and I understand what Councilmember Meske is saying about not just giving them the money and then having them spend it, but we did put the brakes on them from going ahead with their architectural fees. But I will make a friendly amendment to my motion to leave that other $1 million for whatever projects are necessary.
Is the seconder to the motion amicable to that?
I'm amicable to that, yes.
Councilmember Nelson.
I'm good with that. I think I just wanted to make sure Councilmember Meske was simply trying to clarify that the motion follows with what has been approved to date and leaves it open for what might come in the future. So I'm good with it.
I absolutely, and Mr. Mayor, if I may. Yep, I'm absolutely, I just want to make sure the process is set in place, because every project comes through. Of course, those are the champions for that project, and I want them all to be treated the same way. I know we put the brakes on them, and I know the rest of these are going to get the brakes off of the designs of the other projects. But for this one, the council arbitrarily or one-sidedly said we're not going to fund X and Y. Well, we're putting the funding back in, but we made them go through a different process, and we're trying to normalize that process. And I think this will allow projects to come through the committee, through the structure, and then back to council. And it's not saying that money is for that one project, because the other ones would be saying, well, where's our extra dollars for our projects? So I like this. I think it gets us in the right track, and those dollars will be there for whatever projects we use. So thank you.
Motion been made and seconded. We've had discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Alvarado,
Aye.
Osmus,
Aye.
Spellman,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Bagley,
Aye.
Maskey,
Aye.
Schwantes.
Aye.
Ayes, 0 nays.
That motion carries. Next, the council can consider a resolution to approve temporary use of cash on hand for soft costs for the recreational fields event in Recreation Center sign. Anybody wish to make that motion?
Meskey, I'll make that motion.
Osmus, I'll second that.
Motion by Maskey, seconded by Osmus. Mr. Gramitz, anything you want to add?
No, this really is a continuation of what we've been doing so far. You know, been using the soft costs or using cash flow to cover the soft costs. So the concept is once we get to the point of construction, then we just bond kind of for the whole project that we're doing, and then pay ourselves back for the soft costs so we can use that money to do the soft costs for the next project. And in the end, the last project, we won't have to do that because, you know, the soft costs will already be taken care of, and all you have to fund is the hard costs of construction. So we're just using our on-hand cash, and based off of Finance Director Oken's analysis, it should work as we proceed through the various stages of design and ultimately construction.
Additional discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Osmus,
Aye.
Spellman,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Bagley,
Aye.
Maskey,
Aye.
Schwantes,
Aye.
Alvarado.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That motion carries. That resolution passes as well. Next, we have a resolution to consider to re-engage the services of our professional architects and construction managers, if council wishes to do that.
So moved.
Osmus, second.
Motion by Plowman, seconded by Osmus. Discussion. Councilmember Nelson.
Thank you, Mayor Calvin. I understand why we need to move forward with the architect costs and the construction manager in order to figure out, it's probably a better way to look at if we're going to phase it in, how we can do it. The concern that I have is that the Invest in Willmar, and I think the council, we said we couldn't afford any new operational costs. And so that's my concern right now, is that we're looking at revenue to build something, but the operational side of this is probably not something we can afford right now, or maybe next year. And I hope that we will look at the operational side of what these projects are going to, these two projects are going to cost, as much as we look at the hard costs. And we've gotten a little information, but we have not gotten any formal information as far as what it's going to cost to operate these two. And so while I'm okay with moving forward with this, I think it's a reminder to us, though, that whether we can afford to increase taxes or increase costs to do these projects at this time. So, and I think that applies to both of the two resolutions that we're facing here.
Councilmember Maskey, followed by Plowman.
I was part of those conversations, at least at the local sales tax steering committee. And I was going to make a comment, those dollar amounts at the end of these are not necessarily us approving those full dollar amounts at this time, but they have to be properly designed, and they'll design them, and we'll approach this like we did the other projects. And if there are operating costs that are excessive, in the opinion of the council, they probably won't fund those particular pieces at this time. But I want to make it clear, because it was a bone of contention at our previous meeting, that those millions of dollars doesn't mean we're approving the full projects this evening. All we're doing is re-engaging the designs of those projects, and those projects will have contingency pieces in them that we'll have to address down the road. And who knows, maybe the revenue streams will recover and you can fund the whole thing. But we aren't funding the whole projects this evening. There was some confusion, I think, on part of some folks at our last meeting. So all we're doing is re-engaging, and if there are pieces that seem unpalatable down the road, you would just simply opt to not do those pieces.
Councilmember Plowman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I certainly appreciate the comments that Councilwoman Nelson had to offer with regards to us doing our due diligence regarding the financing of these projects. And then also the comments made by Mr. Meskey in reapproaching and re-engaging with the construction manager and the architects. It's my hope and it's my expectation that in doing so, in re-engaging with the architects and the construction manager, that we will actually get a better grasp of what those operational costs will be. And I think that's one of the pluses for having that construction manager at the table, is that they do have the experience, and that is one of their obligations, in that doing their end of the due diligence, taking a look at the project and making those operational projections for us. So I think, number one, I think Councilwoman Nelson is exactly right, that we have to pay attention to what those costs are going to be. And then number two, in doing the action that we're doing tonight, I think that's really where and how we are going to get the meat and all of that information that we need regarding those specific projects. So I am comfortable moving forward, and I do also look forward to having those discussions regarding and revolving around the operational costs, because it's certainly something that needs to be taken into consideration. And I think we're sitting in a good position with the engineers and the professionals that we have at the table to provide that information to us in timely fashion. Thank you.
Additional discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Plowman,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Fagerly,
Aye.
Meskey,
Aye.
Qantas,
Aye.
Alvarado,
Aye.
Asmus.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That motion passes as well. Next is to re-engage the services of the architect and Marcus Construction for the event center.
So moved.
Asmus, second.
Motion by Plowman, seconded by Asmus. Discussion.
Hey, you got a question.
Fagerly, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So what exactly does re-engaging LSI architects mean? I know they met with the committee. The committee told them what they wanted. They went back to their office, and the first plan wasn't what the committee wanted. So then they went back and redid, and it still wasn't what the committee wanted. And one of the leaders of the last program committee, he resigned. A couple other members resigned. Is the architect actually listening to the committee, or what's going on there? Because that's a large expense. And what I see, I think we're duping the public. It's not an event center. All it is a large building with 2 gymnasiums and 2 basketball courts with no seating, or very little seating. So I'm kind of disappointed.
Additional discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Nelson,
Aye.
Fagerly,
No.
Maskey,
Aye.
Schwantes,
Aye.
Alvarado,
Aye.
Osmus,
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
6 ayes, 1 nay.
That motion does pass. City council member announcements. We'll start with council member Fagerly.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. There is a baseball game going on at Baker Field. It's 13 and 14-year-olds. They're playing Annandale, so I was there earlier. So I got to get back and help out. It was cold.
Thank you for being there. Appreciate that. Next, we have council member I'm all messed up. Councilmember Meskey.
It starts with messed up, so I appreciate it. I don't have any comments, just a thing as, you know, our young ones are under some stress as they go back to school in a variety of different means. And I see a lot of places using creativity how to get back to a new semblance of order. I know we have used this system for some time. I'm curious and look forward to a time when we're going to have a discussion about whether or not we are going to return. I know there are some guidelines. Several committees of the city have returned to some type of a meeting schedule. I think, you know, at some point we need to probably figure out how we can do that creatively and get back into the same room. I miss the three-dimensional council. Not that the two-dimensional isn't fine, but we need to perhaps start thinking about getting back together soon. So just some thoughts tonight. Thanks.
Councilmember Meskey, I do agree with you. Our city administrator did send out a survey to the entire council and only 4 people responded back to it. So again, we've given that responsibility to the city administrator. So if people have concerns about that, we should get that information to the city administrator so he can have an informed position of the council. It's hard for him to make a decision on that. So Councilmember Meskey, is something you wish to add?
I was just gonna say, I did fill that out, and as things unwind, I mean, things change, and as we're getting very good at the idea of wearing masks and social distancing. Some of those things, when that question came out earlier, things have changed, and I think we're even seeing how schools are doing it and having creative elements. So again, hate to beat it again, but I really think we can kind of find a way to do that. And I'm aware it wasn't a really big bunch of folks that turned in the things, but it's a different time. This thing evolves, and we can always revisit it. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I agree with you. Councilmember Schwantes.
I'll pass. Thank you.
Councilmember Alvarado.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Touching on it, we have young people back in school. Be careful out there while you're driving. It's getting darker earlier. They're all over the place, so be careful about that. Be aware the leaves are starting to fall, so we got to keep our drains clean and on our roads, streets. And I was just wondering, how are we, and this is directed to Judy, how are we doing with our voting judges? Are we going to be ready in November?
Yes, Councilmember Alvarado, we will be ready. We've gotten many people that have stepped up to the plate and expressed interest in becoming a judge, so we will be holding a good training session here soon.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Councilmember Osmus.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I'd just like to start with a shout out to the utilities and the great job that they've done with the past storms that we've had. They went down and helped Granite Falls, I believe. And then we had some major power outages with some of the storms that have blown through, and they had us up and running in no time. And then I just also want to give a shout out to Park and Rec that last Friday morning, I was going north on 71 and went past the pickleball courts, and it was jam-packed. It was jam-packed. People are utilizing that facility, and I know that they really enjoy it. And it's just a great amenity that we put in. The senior center, the community center, has been having a number of activities out there. They had some music, they had some bingo that they've had in the parking lot. Now, of course, with this colder weather, I don't know how they're going to be able to continue with some things, but everybody's trying to make do, and we'll get through this. But that's it.
Councilmember Plowman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, everybody's taking the good stuff so far, but definitely good nod to our public works, public safety people, staying on top of everything. We see them right away, the next morning, just like Ms. Hosmus said, the next morning after a storm, the trucks and payloader and everybody's out running around doing everything they need to do, making sure that the water stays on, the lights stay on. And those are the things that we all take for granted on a daily basis. And also a secondary nod, just as was mentioned, it is back to school time. Nod to the Willmar School District. I was at conferences today, and wow, what a bunch of hurdles, extra hurdles that they've never had to deal with before that they're finding a way to deal with, and they're finding a way to get this done. So that shows community resolve, and I think that should be acknowledged. Hopefully we just continue on. We make progress as we go. Our kids can go back to school in a safe manner, and we can exit this year and hopefully enter 2021 in a little bit better fashion. Thank you.
Councilmember Nelson.
Thank you, Mayor Calvin. I just was going to comment that the Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities has a board meeting this week, and one of the items on the agenda is what they're going to do about their fall conference, which is scheduled to be here in Willmar. And they are looking at 3 different models, whether they do it in person and whether they do part of it in person and part of it virtual, or whether they do it all virtual. So it would be great if we were able to somehow be partly in Willmar. I think it's a great opportunity for us. And Beth at the Convention and Visitors Bureau has been working with them on that. But it brings to light the technology that is needed to do both in-person and virtual meetings. And so I just hope that we, when we are ready to go back to being in person, that our technology is up to date to allow us to be able to have a model that works if we need to change quickly and go back to virtual or be part virtual. So I bring that up. The other thing I just wanted to comment was I did attend Ron Andreen's award, and Councilmember Fagerly did a great job representing the city that day and presenting our proclamation to them. It was a nice event out at the Flags of Honor, and both a special location and a special man. And so just wanted to say thank you to the city for that proclamation and to Councilmember Fagerly for representing the city.
Okay, additional comments? I'll just add, Councilmember Alvarado, did I miss you?
No, you didn't. Did you just say, was there any additional comments?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to say, remember to thank law enforcement, our firefighters, and our EMT personnel as we recognize 9/11 on the end of the week. Thank you.
Certainly. I agree with that. Councilmember Meske, to your point about getting us back together, I'm very concerned that we're continuing to meet remotely. I brought this concern to the city administrator on numerous occasions over the last 4 to 5 weeks. And I certainly would think it appropriate. I know Municipal Utilities is back meeting in person. I know the county board has been meeting in person, I think, for a couple months. And I strongly believe that the communication is words, but nonverbal communication is the majority of the communication that happens. Now, just happens to be that my computer had problems tonight. We've had numerous people that have had problems with their computers, with the technology, that Councilmember Nelson stated earlier. And I think we need to get back together. I think there's ways that we can do that. And I certainly would entertain a motion if someone on the council was willing to do that, to have our next meeting be an in-person meeting, because this is a vital part of how we function as a city. Having the decision makers at the table, and it can be done in a safe and efficient manner, in my opinion. Councilmember Maskey. Councilmember Fagerly to follow.
Oh, I would say for me, I've never felt comfortable when people throw motions at the end of the meeting, but I truly would like, minimally, it needs to be on the next agenda as an agenda item. We need to address it head on. I've always felt uncomfortable when they do it at the end, but let's make a conscious effort to put it on the next agenda. I think that would be a great idea.
Councilmember Fagerly.
I'd make a motion to meet in person the next council meeting. I'm sorry, I'm out working every day. I'm in different houses every day. There's been one person that asked me to wear a mask, and that was over in another community. I said, fine. And there was one person in town here, said, come on in, don't touch anything. If you need something opened or the water turned on, I'll do it for you. And I said, I'm fine with that. So it's time to get back to normal. I'm sorry.
Councilmember Nelson.
Well,
I'm sorry,
there is-
we have a motion. We'd need a second to continue discussion. Instead of a second, the motion dies for lack of a second. Committee meeting dates, labor.
I have not heard from the HR Director Beckman. If things are planned, it'll be in 2 weeks on Monday at 6:15.
Okay, community development.
It will be Monday, the 28th. The Planning Commission is working on some stuff. So David said the 28th.
Public Works, Public Safety.
Yes, we will meet tomorrow, which is Wednesday, the 9th at 5 p.m. There are at least two discussion items and a minimum of 8 action items we need to take. So we're going to have a full agenda tomorrow night.
Councilmember Nelson with Finance.
Finance is scheduled to meet on Thursday at 5 p.m. September 10th.
Councilmember Maskey.
Mr. Mayor, I don't know what the process is, but could you please make sure that the meeting face-to-face is an agenda item for our next council meeting, please? I'm making an official request for that.
We can ask. I guess we'll have to wait till the agenda comes out to see if it's on it. So we can ask. Additional comments? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. We are adjourned.